Welcome to Somali Nexus, the podcast where we explore the hidden knowledge, powerful stories, and deep cultural legacy of the Somali people. This is where history meets identity, and where oral tradition is given voice once again. Tonight's episode asks a bold and thought-provoking question. Did Somali astronomers name stars before Europe? Long before European star charts and telescopes, Somali nomads, seafarers, and poets were already reading the heavens. They didn't write their knowledge down, they lived it. Through oral tradition, celestial wisdom was passed from generation to generation, guiding migration, prayer, and survival in one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. Somalis named the stars not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. The Pleiades were called Urur or Laxo, a cluster of sheep. The North Star was Hiddigta Qibladda, guiding both direction and devotion. Hal-toddobaad, 7 in 1, described the Big Dipper. These weren't borrowed terms, they were original, poetic, and deeply practical. As we explore this ancient sky lore, we uncover more than just stargazing. We reveal a scientific and spiritual system that predates many Western records, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, where European eyes had yet to look. So, did Somali astronomers name stars before Europe? Maybe not on paper, but through memory, meaning, and tradition, they very well may have. This episode is about reclaiming a piece of Somali heritage too often left out of the global conversation on science and history. It's a reminder that knowledge comes in many forms, and that our ancestors were not just storytellers, but scientists in their own right. This is Somali Nexus. Let's begin.
If you've ever looked up at the night sky, you know there's something truly universal about it.
Absolutely.
Across cultures throughout history, people have gazed up at those, countless pinpricks of light and felt wonder, sought meaning, found guidance even.
It's a shared human experience. Definitely transcends time.
Like a cosmic story we all instinctively try to read.
And that's exactly right. From the earliest civilizations, the heavens have been, well, a clock, a calendar, a map, and a really profound spiritual guide too.
It's just this innate human impulse, isn't it, to connect with what's above us?
Yeah.
Today we're taking a deep dive into a really remarkable example of that universal fascination. It's a story often overlooked, I think, in the grand narrative of scientific discovery. We're talking about the ancient and incredibly sophisticated astronomical traditions of the Somali people.
And our mission today really is to unpack how Somalis developed their own unique way of mapping the heavens. How this knowledge wasn't just abstract. It was woven directly into their daily lives for survival.
And maybe most importantly, we're going to tackle that really fascinating, kind of provocative question. Did Somalis name the stars before Europeans did?
Yeah, that's the big one. And to piece this all together, we've dug deep into, well, a really interesting mix of sources.
A well blend, yeah.
We're drawing from historical accounts, so some detailed linguistic analysis, tracing words back like millennia.
Fascinating stuff.
Vibrant oral traditions that have kept wisdom alive for generations. And even some cutting-edge archaeological discoveries. They're literally unearthing proof.
It's an incredible convergence of evidence, really putting the picture together.
So where do we start with the oral tradition?
I think we have to. For centuries, Somali astronomical wisdom was almost entirely passed down orally. And this wasn't just casual storytelling, it was deeply embedded in aspect of life. Predicting the weather and the Horn of Africa, which is notoriously harsh.
Dividing huge herds of animals and forming spiritual practices. This deep oral foundation existed long before widespread written traditions were common there.
That's just astounding, isn't it? An entire scientific system basically preserved, not in books, but in memory, in the spoken word. Were there specific people like key individuals who were crucial in carrying this knowledge forward?
Oh, definitely. There are a few figures who really stand out. One is Hassan al-Jabarti. He died in 1774. A really revered Somali scholar and astronomer. He actually taught at the famous Al-Azhar University in Cairo.
Wow, in Cairo.
Yeah, his understanding of sciences, including astronomy, was so significant it directly influenced scholarly circles across Egypt. And his intellectual legacy maybe famously was passed through his son, the historian Abd al-Rahman al-Jabarti.
A Somali scholar influencing the intellectual heart of the Arab world. That's not the story you usually hear.
It's not? No. And it really highlights how interconnected knowledge systems were even back then.
Definitely.
Who else? Then there's Yusuf al-Qanin, also known as Al-Barkadal. He's revered as a legendary Somali saint.
A saint?
Yeah, known as Master of the Two Universes, or Al-Qanin. Oral tradition credits him with this profound cosmic knowledge. It points to a really ancient sort of ancestral connection to astronomy that goes back even further, perhaps, than written records might suggest.
Okay, so we have these historical and legendary figures, but then bridging that ancient wisdom into like the modern era. Yeah, that's where Musa Galal comes in.
Exactly. He is absolutely pivotal.
What did he do? Why was it so crucial?
Well, Musa Haji Ismail Galal, he was a Somali linguist and folklorist, active mainly in the mid-20th century. From 1909 to 1980, he meticulously collected and documented the oral star lore from Somali elders.
So he went out and talked to people?
Yes, exactly. His works, like the terminology and practice of Somali weather lore, astronomy, and astrology, they became the absolute bedrock of our modern understanding. He essentially built a bridge, didn't he? Ensuring this invaluable heritage wasn't lost, as traditional ways of life started to, modernize.
He sounds like a real hero of knowledge preservation. Just incredible work.
Monumental.
And what about the people on the ground in the communities themselves? Who are the day-to-day keepers of this sky knowledge?
Right. Within the communities, you had the traditional sky watchers. They were known as Hiddigta.
Hiddigta?
Yeah, meaning star experts. They weren't formally trained like Western astronomers, obviously.
No.
But their expertise in reading the celestial bodies was incredibly trusted, respected. They advised communities on really crucial stuff.
Like what?
Like when to move their herds, when to expect rains, vital information, even how to align burial sites or determine the Qibla, the direction for prayer.
Wow.
Their knowledge was often woven into poems, into proverbs. So even children grew up with this sort of baseline understanding of the stars.
It really paints a picture of a life literally guided by the stars. So, okay, given how deeply connected the heavens were to their survival, how did they actually describe the night sky? Do they see the same patterns we recognize or something unique?
Well, what's truly fascinating is that Somalis developed a thoroughly indigenous naming system completely their own.
Okay.
They name stars and constellations based on appearance. Yeah, but also their behavior in the sky, and critically, their cultural significance.
Ah, so tied to their lives.
Exactly. Often reflecting pastoral life. Those critical weather patterns, even moral stories. And the names themselves are often incredibly poetic, metaphorical, full of vivid imagery.
I like that. Poetic and metaphorical. Can you give us some examples? What do they call some familiar stars?
Sure, the Pleiades, that little cluster most people know.
Uh-huh, the Seven Sisters.
Right. Well, they called it Urur, or Laho, which literally means cluster or sheep.
Sheep. Okay. That makes sense for a pastoral people.
Absolutely. Vital for livestock management, tracking seasons. Then Polaris, our North Star. That was Hiddigta Qibladda, the star of the Qibla, or prayer.
Because it shows the direction for prayer and navigation.
Precisely. Crucial for finding your way, especially for nomads and sailors and for religious observance. Their sky was truly a functional map.
It really was. What else?
The Big Dipper, Ursa Major, to us they called Hal-toddobaad.
Hal-toddobaad.
Meaning 7 in 1, they saw it as a group of 7 united stars. Often used it for goo prediction too. Okay, but here's where it gets really unique, I think. The Southern Cross crux.
Right, which you can't really see from most of Europe.
Exactly, but it was regularly observed from Somalia, and they called it Wadamo Lugud.
Wadamo Lugud. What does that mean?
It means cutting water skins.
Cutting water skins. Wow.
And it wasn't just the name, it symbolized the end of the dry season. It could even be a warning sign for impending floods. That's a powerful image, isn't it? Tied right to the water cycle.
Cutting water skins.
That's so vivid.
Almost cinematic. It sounds like their names weren't just labels at all.
Not at all.
They were functional, tied directly to their environment, their survival.
They absolutely were. A few others, Dirir associated with conflict, which is Spissa in Virgo. That was a critical star for their lunar calendar, as we'll see.
Okay,
The Coal-Sack Nebula. You know that dark patch in the Milky Way Arca Urca, the sky camel?
a sky camel.
And the Milky Way itself, Jid Urur, the Cursed One's Path.
Cursed One's Path. Why?
It's associated with a spiritual cautionary tale, actually, about a son who mistreated his mother and was then dragged across the sky as punishment.
Wow, a sky camel and a cursed path. These aren't just names, they're stories, legends, warnings embedded right into the stars.
Precisely. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many of our own familiar constellations started out as something just as deeply ingrained in culture and myth.
It really does. And connecting this back, you mentioned the sky camel. That sounds particularly significant.
It is maybe the most culturally important example. It reflects the camel, the single most vital animal in Somali culture. Sorts everything: milk, meat, transport, wealth.
The center of their world in many ways.
Exactly. So, projecting it onto the night sky represents this ultimate fusion of the celestial and the terrestrial, a central figure in their cosmic worldview.
And it makes you immediately think of the European constellation Camelopardalis. Right? The giraffe.
Right. And it's an excellent point of comparison,
How so?
because it highlights a fundamental difference in the whole philosophy of mapping the sky. Camelopardalis, the giraffe, is much more recent. Oh yeah, it was basically invented cartographically in the early 17th century by a Dutch astronomer,
Really? Just invented?
pretty much. Designed to fill a faint patch in the northern sky for charting purposes. It doesn't have any deep cultural mythology, no ancient narrative attached.
Yeah.
The Somali sky camel, on the other hand, is this organic creation of indigenous mythology, a celestial story reflecting the core values and environment of the people who imagined it.
So the Somali system embeds deep narratives while the modern European one was more about standardization, abstract categorization.
Exactly. A different way of seeing, a different purpose.
So it's not just different names for the same things, but a fundamentally different way of understanding and using the sky. Which brings us to the practical applications. This wasn't just stargazing or storytelling, was it?
Absolutely not. And this really gets to the why. Why did Somalis invest so much in astronomical knowledge? The answer, at its core, is survival. Somali astronomy wasn't just abstract contemplation. It was deeply practical. Spiritual too. Yes, but essential for navigating the challenges of the Horn of Africa.
Tell us more about how they used it, like day to day.
Well, for nomadic herders, stars were absolutely essential for orientation, finding their way across vast, featureless plains.
Like a compass.
Exactly. Using the North Star Hiddigta Qibladda to find their direction, especially when moving herds at night, which they often did.
And sailors too?
Oh, heavily. Coastal sailors relied on stars to guide trade routes across the Indian Ocean, especially during the monsoon seasons. Precise navigation was literally life or death. Their knowledge allowed them to navigate confidently, connecting distant lands through trade.
So a compass for the land and the sea. What about timekeeping, calendars? How sophisticated were they there?
They had a really sophisticated dual system. It's quite remarkable.
Dual system?
Yeah, the Amintiris was their solar calendar, primarily for seasonal and agricultural planning. And the Daya Tiriska was a lunar stellar calendar, more for religious and social matter.
Okay, solar and lunar, stellar. How did the solar one work?
The Amintiris was based on a 365-day tropical year organized into 4 13-week seasons. But what's truly impressive is it included these complex cycles.
Cycles?
Yeah, 50-day cycles, 7-year cycles, even 49-year cycles for long-term timekeeping.
Wow.
The Dabshid festival around July 20th marked their solar new year. This wasn't just basic time-telling. These cycles show a deep, long-term grasp of celestial mechanics and climate patterns, planning for generations ahead.
That is incredibly precise for a system developed without telescopes or modern instruments. Just generations of careful observation.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? Now, the Daya Tiriska, the lunar stellar one, it used a system based on the moon's position against specific star groups, similar in concept maybe to the Arabic Manazil al-Qamar, the lunar mansions. But what's really critical here, what makes it distinctively Somali, is how its new year was determined.
How?
Not just by the new moon, but by the occultation when the moon passes directly in front of the star. Dirir, Speka.
Ah, so the moon and a specific star.
Exactly. That stellar anchor fundamentally distinguishes it from purely Arabic lunar calendars. It's the unique synthesis.
A unique blend of influences and indigenous innovation. And the age of this system. How far back does it go?
Well, the linguistic roots are incredibly telling here. The actual Somali words for count and period, tiro and amen, they trace back Proto-Eastern Cushitic, which suggests these core concepts, the very idea of time reckoning, are millennia old in that region.
Millennia?
Yeah, scholars estimate the Amin-Tiri's solar calendar probably evolved into its current form around 2,500 years ago.
2,500 years, so roughly concurrent with classical Greek astronomy.
Pretty much, yeah. Placing its development squarely in the same era as some of the foundational Western astronomical traditions.
That really changes the perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, beyond calendars, how else did they apply this knowledge daily?
Well, the Hiddigta, the star experts, use star positions for detailed weather prediction. It wasn't just generalities.
Like what?
For instance, when the Southern Cross Wadamo Lugud started to dip low at dusk, that wasn't just an observation, it signaled approaching rains. Or it could warn of floods.
The cutting water skin star giving flood warning.
Exactly. And the setting of the Big Dipper's bowl also foretold weather changes. This guided crucial decisions. Should herders stay put, or was it time to migrate? It was their predictive science for survival.
It sounds like an early, very sophisticated form of meteorology directly tied to watching the sky.
It absolutely was, and maybe one of the most remarkable practices, for me anyway, was in livestock management.
Oh yeah, how so?
Herders timed the mating of their sheep and goats based on specific celestial events.
Get out. Really?
Yes. There was a particular night in November when the full moon aligned precisely with the Pleiades. With Urur, on that specific night, they would release the rams into the flocks.
Why then? What was the significance?
Because it ensured the lambs would be born exactly 5 months later. Right, when the crucial Gu rains arrived in April.
Ah, guaranteeing fresh pasture.
Exactly. Guaranteeing fresh pasture and the survival of the new generation. This wasn't just tradition, it was brilliant applied ecological science.
Wow, that's a deep integrated understanding. Ecology, animal husbandry, astronomy, all working together.
It's truly a functional science embedded in their entire way of life.
Amazing. Was there a spiritual side too?
Oh yes, absolutely. And while it's maybe less prominent now with the widespread adoption of Islam, beliefs once held that certain star-moon alignments influenced fate, destiny. For instance, a child born when the moon was near the Pleiades was thought to be destined for wealth, particularly in livestock. These beliefs, now mostly part of folklore, they just highlight the holistic nature of their sky knowledge. The practical and the mystical were deeply intertwined.
And it sounds like all this wisdom, practical, spiritual, scientific, was beautifully preserved in their oral traditions, like living archives.
That's a great way to put it, living archives. Stars are deeply woven into Somali poetry. Riddles, proverbs, they serve as symbols, characters, and cautionary tales. Ways of encoding wisdom.
Like the Milky Way story.
Exactly. The legend of Urur, the cursed one's path. That's a profound cautionary tale. Children would hear explaining morality and fate through the cosmos. And the strict poetic rules of these oral forms, they actually ensured incredibly high-fidelity transmission across generations, encoding vast amounts of scientific information without needing paper or ink. The poetry itself was a mnemonic device.
So, okay, we have this ancient, sophisticated, deeply practical system, meticulously preserved for centuries, maybe millennia. This brings us right back to that core provocative question of this deep dive. Did Somalis name the stars before Europeans did? It really challenges the standard narrative, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it forces us, I think, to reframe the entire history of astronomy. The traditional view, the Eurocentric one.
Yeah, it starts with Mesopotamia, Greece.
Right? Mesopotamia, then Greece, then maybe Islamic scholars preserving Greek knowledge. Then Renaissance Europe picking it up. It's presented very linearly.
But it's not the whole story.
It's not. While it contains truth, it's fundamentally incomplete. It overlooks parallel independent developments happening elsewhere, like in the Horn of Africa.
So what does a parallel timeline look like? One that includes the Somali experience.
Okay, well, if we look at Mesopotamia and Greco-Roman traditions, The earliest written records are indeed Sumerian, Babylonian. The Mul Apin catalog, maybe 1200 BCE.
Right?
Homer and Hesiod mention constellations around 700 BCE, and Ptolemy's Almagest, which codified 48 constellations. That's around 150 CE. That's kind of the recognized basis of Western astronomy.
But the Somali timeline runs alongside this, not necessarily after it. Right?
Exactly. Concurrently, the linguistic evidence, as we said, pushes Cushitic timekeeping roots back millennia.
Right? Tiro and Ammon.
Yes, the Ammon-Tiris solar calendar estimated around 500 BCE. But here's the kicker, the really compelling physical evidence. Those burial cairns at His in Somaliland, dating from the 1st to 3rd centuries CE, they show statistically significant deliberate astronomical alignments.
Alignments with what? Solstices, stars.
Solstices, key star risings, yes. This provides physical, undeniable proof that sophisticated practical application of this knowledge was happening at the very same time Ptolemy was writing his Almagest in Alexandria.
That is, wow! Physical proof of practical astronomy in Somalia during the height of Roman intellectual output in Egypt. That really shifts the perspective.
Doesn't it? And of course, we can't forget the huge Islamic contributions later on 8th to 15th centuries. Scholars like Abdul Rahman al-Sufi preserved in advanced astronomy. Many modern star names we use were actually Arabic, Aldebaran, Betelgeuse.
Right, a crucial link.
And this period then significantly influenced Europe, leading into the age of exploration.
Which is when European mariners started seriously charting the southern hemisphere.
Exactly.
A sky that Somalis had already been observing, naming, and using for generations.
That is the crux of it. The modern map. The 88 official constellations standardized by the International Astronomical Union, IAU, in 1922, that only really came together as European mariners filled in the southern sky and the gaps in Ptolemy's map starting mainly from the 16th century onwards.
So the nuanced answer to did Somalis name stars before Europeans? It's complicated.
It's nuanced, yeah. While European written records for some northern stars are older and obviously more accessible to modern scholarship, Somali oral traditions for many southern sky features, things largely invisible from Europe until much later, almost certainly predate European naming.
It's about parallel independent development driven by different needs.
Precisely. A pastoral science, you could call it, focused on immediate practical application for survival versus a more abstract, eventually cartographic cosmology developing in parallel elsewhere.
It's a remarkable testament to human ingenuity, wherever it happens.
It truly is, and the very survival of this knowledge for so long, it's a testament to the sheer power of oral tradition.
Those mental archives.
Yes, Somali poetry, storytelling, the strict poetic rules, the cultural reverence, they ensured incredibly high fidelity, transmission, encoding vast amounts of scientific information across generations.
And Musa Galal was the bridge bringing that oral tradition into a modern written form, preserving it.
He was absolutely monumental. His meticulous collection documenting the knowledge from the Wadado, the traditional experts, his foundational works, ensured this heritage wasn't just lost to modernization.
Gave it a written bedrock.
Exactly, allowing us to study it today.
And now, incredibly, archaeology is literally validating his work. Stones in the ground confirming what was spoken for centuries. That's exciting.
It is. It's incredibly exciting. Archaeoastronomy has confirmed the antiquity. Those studies of burial cairns at His, other sites in Somaliland, 1st to 3rd centuries CE, they revealed statistically significant alignments with solstices, key star risings, concrete physical proof of the antiquity, and the practical use of the very knowledge Galal documented centuries later from oral sources.
While the oral traditions give us the rich cultural context, the why and how, and now archaeology provides the empirical validation, the historical depth. It's a perfect symbiosis.
It really is showing this science has been continuously practiced for at least 2 millennia, a living heritage.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for us, for the listener, as we think about the broader story of human knowledge?
Well, I think it means Somali astronomy stands as this remarkable example of indigenous science, functional, profound, developed independently. It shows us that sophisticated scientific understanding can thrive and persist for millennia through entirely different pathways than the ones usually acknowledged in Western history books. It just broadens our whole understanding of what science is.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought, doesn't it? What other profound scientific understandings might still exist out there, embedded in oral traditions across the globe, yet to be fully documented or archaeologically validated, waiting to reshape our collective story of human ingenuity and maybe our shared connection to the cosmos?